the debt so that he keeps up to his promise. So please, sir, forgive me. I did not say President Hakainde, President Bali is a liar. I'm not a person who gets involved in vulgar language, insulting. I only tell the truth. And I've said the truth here. I don't believe that presidents can be liars. The president indeed told us he's going to give us a surprise government. Yes, what he gave us was not a surprise government at all. He missed it. Out of the 25 ministers that he appointed, 10 belong to a government that the PF defeated in 2011. So, but Diana, you can see from this that in 2026, Chikaba ichaanguka kuchefe chali mu 2011. 10 of these guys are from the government that we defeated. The other 15 are all novices.
But they crossed long back.
Yes, they crossed.
Long back.
Some of Ambassador Frank, some of them were ministers whining and dining with Edgar Lungu until 3 months before elections. So anyway, let's leave that.
Please go ahead. Please go ahead. Yeah.
The second, for instance, President Bali promised the Zambian people he's going to run a lean cabinet of 18 members. Now he has 25 or more. Again, broken promise. He told us he's going to have a youthful government. The first people he appointed, the majority of whom were people he went and dug up from retirement. People had long retired.
Experience.
Yeah, but at the time that he was still...
And there's some young people in this government.
How many are there? 4.
Yeah,
out of 25.
Well,
actually 2 out of 25.
He
told us he's going to have a gender sensitive government.
It's evolving. It's evolving. You know, this government, 6 months down the line, this government may not be the same.
You remember what I said? I said, you must be cautious. As a politician, you must be cautious how you put your statements. If you say, I shall gradually do this, then people will believe you. And if you put it as a statement of fact, then it's a fact. It must be done there and then. Yep. So when I say that President Bali must keep his promises, it's because I don't want him to end up ending the name Bali Muntu Wabufi, BMW. I don't want the president to have that name, Bali Muntu Wabufi, BMW. No, I want him to escape that name. And he will escape that name by keeping his promises. For instance, he told the Zambian people, 1st of September, the price of maize will increase from 150 to 250. Please let him do that. He told the Zambian people, 1st of November, the price of minimum will be 50 kwacha. Please let him do that. And I want to encourage all members of parliament, PF members of parliament especially, not to be antagonistic. Please support Bali, support President Bali to deliver on these promises. Now, Chama, add more pressure. My friend, the way we're going to add pressure ourselves, we're not going to be like them who are walking in and out of parliament, who refused to call President Edgar Lungu president. For me, I regard President Bali as His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Zambia. I'm calling him Bali because that is his popular name.
Right.
I don't think that President Edgar Lungu would feel any injury if we call him ECL, because that's his trademark. So when I say President Bali, I'm just using the name that he loves. President Bali must be supported. But we are going to pressure him by making sure that we keep checking the boxes that he told us to check. All the promises he made, he must deliver on them. We're not going to insult him at all. We're going to keep him completely in sufficient space for him to deliver. That is what we want. And I'd like to appeal to my friends in the Patriotic Front. I know that a lot of them are living under fear. As I speak now, there are still members of the Patriotic Front who are not in their homes because they're being harassed, they're being chased, they're being intimidated. Please, please, my friends, you won elections. Allow your president now to govern in an environment of peace. Don't make your president continue to appear like a man who loves violence. Because if you perpetuate this violence, the only thing that it turns out to be is that your president is the one who loves blood. I don't think we should make him appear to be bloodthirsty. Please let the Zambians enjoy their freedoms.
You just made reference to that some are not in their homes. I mean, the reports, that some of them are just afraid of some of the perceived sins they committed. And could you clarify that some of the PF members are running away, going out of the country because of some of the perceived sins? Have you heard anything to that end?
No, I haven't heard of any person who has left Zambia for fear of prosecution. I haven't. But if they are, then I don't think that they committed any offences on behalf of the Patriotic Front. They may have committed offences individually, but I'm not aware of. I'm not aware of any member of the Patriotic Front.
Since you've made reference to that, your quick comment on the possible introduction of fast courts, truck courts.
Perfect. Very, very welcome.
Brilliant.
Let them come in place and let them come up with the
better to dispense justice quickly.
But let them come up with the procedures, that will ensure that the courts operate without any vindictiveness.
Brilliant. Have you left out anything there?
The only thing I wanted to say is to assure Chama Mbewe and Madam Diana that your party is as strong as you want to make it. So please don't just sit back and let's make sure we mobilize.
That's very encouraging. Could you also quickly, Vice President, comment on petitions, and what they could do to the performance of Parliament? The President says he doesn't really like them, but he believes in rule of law. Your comment on that?
He made it appear as though he's oblivious of the fact that his members of Parliament and his councillors have petitioned. I don't believe that. I don't think that his members of Parliament could have gone ahead and petitioned as widely as they have if they hadn't made a policy on it. I think that this is just a deliberate ploy. And one can just assume that they are hoping that because they're in government, therefore, petitions will go in their favor. The one thing that they're forgetting is that they are taking away energy from parliamentarians to be effective in Parliament. It will take some time for these cases to be disposed of, but they will be disposed of. But also, what they are losing sight of is the colossal amounts of money that are going into these petitions.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of money to be spent when you have a petition. I suffered a petition myself. I know how expensive it is. But third and most important, again, I'm saying this with mixed emotions. On one hand, I'm not so happy that there's so many petitions, but on the other, I'm happy because they vindicate President Edgar Chagwa Lungu. You remember when President Edgar Chagwa Lungu said these elections are not free and fair? People poured scorn on him. How could he possibly say this? Now, they themselves are going to court and saying these elections were not free and fair. On the other hand, they accept the results of the presidential election. They don't accept the results of the parliamentary elections. And yet they were held together. So this, if you see, is again an element of inconsistency. But for me, I'm very happy because our members are also now lined up to go and expose all the atrocities that were occasioned during these elections. So at the end of the day, we are also going to expose what they did during the elections.
The other issue, the continued stay of a number of permanent secretaries in their jobs and even advisors still in their jobs. I just take it that the president is taking his time, is moving meticulously. But again, the mixed views on this. Where you stand, Vice President, what is your position on this?
With regard to permanent secretaries, I can understand that it will take some time because those people have to prepare handovers and so on and so forth, and you can't just disrupt the whole system. However, like the other one said, a person who's ready to form government will not take a month to compose his cabinet. A person who's ready to take cabinet would act as swiftly as President Michael Sata did, as swiftly as Edgar Lungu did. For him, it's very clear that he was least expectant of forming government. This is the reason why it took him so long. But very well, he's finally done it. But also, talking about continuity in government, unfortunately for him, the speech that was given to him to deliver to Parliament on the opening of the 13th National Assembly was obviously not his speech. That speech, and like Honorable Moigo said, that speech was written by technocrats. And I can assure you that those technocrats had written that speech long before the elections. And they too were anticipating President Edgar Lungu to read that speech. So it was a speech written following the PF manifesto. That's why you see a lot of things in that speech which are borrowed directly from the PF manifesto. I'm hoping that when he comes with his budget, he will come up with a budget that will reflect his party manifesto, not the PF manifesto.
Talk about the budget. What are your expectations and in view of where the economy is right now?
Number one thing for me is actually, this was a missed opportunity by President Bali Remember on BBC, he said, I've inherited empty coffers. He said he had inherited hidden debt. I thought that what he said to the international community through BBC, he should have come to say also in Parliament. But of course, because the speech was written by technocrats, not for him, but for Edgar Lungu, he missed that opportunity. I'm hoping that Minister of Finance, Muso Kotwane, when he goes to Parliament to present his budget, he will first of all tell us where the hidden debt is and how much it is, and secondly tell us how he inherited empty coffers when he had 2.9 or $3 billion in reserves, and he should tell us where all the money that's being collected by ZRA on a daily basis has been going to. He must tell us how they have managed to open Parliament when they have no money. He must tell us how they have managed to buy, FRA has managed to buy all this maize when they have empty coffers, how the state has not failed to pay salaries for all civil servants when they have when they have no money in the coffers, how fuel is still in the fuel stations when they have inherited empty coffers. This he must tell. But also, in the budget for 2022, the one thing that the Zambians are looking for, number one, actually there are four things that they must not lose sight of. Number one, there must be a huge increase to the Ministry of Education. So that our children go to school without paying fees. Surely, God must not forgive us as Zambians for us to have elected a person on the basis that our children will attend free education and then afterwards we are shortchanged. God shall not forgive us. So we must make sure there's free education. Number two, we cannot possibly allow this government to take us for a ride by asking us to vote for them that they're going to create jobs for youths and they fail to do it in the first year. They must create jobs. We are very happy that they are cleaning up markets, they are cleaning up bus stations of cadres, and I have to admit that yes, they were saying those were PF hooligans. Yes, they are PF cadres, they are PF hooligans. Yes, remove them from the streets. We support you. Remove them from markets. Remove them from bus stations. But as you do that, remember that those are Zambians who also deserve a living. And it is the government's responsibility to provide for them. So don't just harass them and throw them away jobless and they have no money to feed their children on, because then you are creating destitution. He lamented the fact that the levels of poverty in Zambia are so high. Yes, address that, Bwana, please, Bali, address that by creating employment here and now. That we must see in the budget. We also must see in the budget increased allocation to the Ministry of Agriculture. We want our farmers to produce more. If you look at the PF manifesto, we talked about realigning the farmer input support program. And he has adopted that, and actually he was going even further by saying he will give 12 bags of fertilizer per farmer, he will reduce the cost of fertilizer to 200 kwacha. Let us see that in the budget of 2022, because this is in the interest of the Zambian people. We also want to make sure that President Bali goes out and opens up more road infrastructure, because you cannot possibly grow agriculture without investing in the road network. There are many places where President Edgar Chagwa Lungu may not have managed to open roads. Those are roads that are waiting for him now to open up. He spoke about water harvesting. If you look at the PF manifesto, and that's why I'm saying this speech was purely a PF manifesto speech. In the PF manifesto, we said that going forward, we're going to expand on the number of dams that we're opening up for the sake of increasing irrigated agriculture. President Edgar Lungu, in the 5 years that he was president, he opened up 5 new dams, the biggest one being Momboshi. I hope that President Bali will also show in his budget, in 2022 budget, that he has allocated money to opening up new dams. So we are very, very expectant. And all I can do is to wish him the very best. I really hope that this time that he's changing the PF government budget, because the PF, even during the elections, the government was in place and it was crafting the budget, but it was crafting it based on the Edgar Chagwa Lungu policies, the Edgar Chagwa Lungu PF manifesto. I hope that he has had the time now to ask the technocrats to realign the budget to suit his manifesto.
Right. Before I ask you my 2 final questions, I just want you to quickly comment on these. The president at the inaugural speech, he said it's not about changing of power, it's about changing of leadership, because power belongs to the people. How would you love this to be practiced, realized in this context, Vice President?
Yes, in accordance with the constitution, executive power, vests in the people of Zambia. So no one has ever said that there is any difference of opinion on that matter. And no one should try and make themselves a philosopher by saying what is obvious. That is not any philosophy at all. It's not a philosophical statement. That's a statement of fact. What changes is leadership. Power still vests in the people. And yes, now there is change of leadership, and the new leadership has a duty to deliver to the expectations of the holders of power, the Zambian people.
Yeah.
And for me, I have to say, yes, the Zambian people exercised their power, whether directly or through intimidation or whatever, or through deceit, but they exercised their power by voting against the PF in favor of the UPND. So for the time being, the UPND, for the next 5 years, if they do manage the 5 years, and I wish them the best, it is them now who have the authority to superintend over the affairs of the Zambian people.
What you do miss most, and what won't you miss most being out of government now, Vice President?
What I will miss most is waking up every morning, being in the office 8 o'clock, and staying in there until 18 hours, 19 hours sometimes, and getting home tired. I will miss that because I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
With regard to Parliament, I will miss the ability to use that national platform to air views, because as you are well aware, that is the only platform that is free from any interference. You go there and express your views without let or hindrance. I'll miss that. What won't I miss? I'm not sure there's anything that I won't miss, because I really 20 years of being a parliamentarian makes you part of the furniture of Parliament. So I have to say that I made a very conscious decision not to continue as a parliamentarian, because I also got to a point where I started to ask myself, is it fair? Am I not becoming greedy? That out of the so many residents of Kabwata constituency, it must just be me and me and me alone. I made a very conscious decision, and truth be told, I was actually prepared to go and settle down and do things that I've not done over the last 40 years that I've been engaged in public service. I wanted to go farming.
Are you still playing your guitar?
Yes, I love to spend time with friends playing guitar. As a matter of fact, your friend and mine, Ricky Dilonga, spends a lot of time with me.
Fantastic.
Sing and
so
once in a while we do that. But I also love to be out in the country. I like going to the farm, and I was hoping that I'll spend more time on the farm. But President Edgar Lungu, oh damn him! I don't know why he instead of allowing me to go and rest, he now gave me this very onerous responsibility.
Talk about President Lungu. Usually and sadly, when presidents leave office, the so-called good friends also disappear. What is the situation with them right now?
Talking about him, the first thing I want to say is that I was extremely touched to a point of almost shedding tears when I saw how gallantly he took the challenge of going to hand over the instruments of governance. Before going there, he was with a few of us, and he got phone calls from people who were in the stadium advising him not to go because they had already picked up that the UPND alliance had mobilized, that when he appears they must boo and so on. And some of the people who were sitting with him were also of the view that he shouldn't go, because in the past some presidents never went. But he himself said, I have a duty to my country. I don't mind what traps they have set up for me. I'm not going to shy away. I have a duty. And what I do today shall be done in the future. And I don't want to have a country where losing president refused to appear. He went there fully aware of the fact he would be booed. And I was with him there, and It was so pathetic to see how people who have won an election can demean a person who only a few days ago was their head of state. That is setting a very bad precedence for Zambia, and I really pray that it never happens again.
Yeah.
However, I think that President Edgar Chagwa Lungu acquitted himself very gallantly. Just imagine, even when the departure parade was being announced, the master of ceremony, Kene Omwenya, a person who only a few days ago was eulogizing and hero worshipping President Edgar Lungu, he decided that after he had announced the new government officials to depart, he also walked away and left President Edgar Lungu to decide when to leave. That was totally humiliating.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that this is one of the legacies that will follow Edgar Chagwa Lungu.
Is he have friends now?
He does have friends.
Yeah.
All the time when you go to visit him, there are many people. There are many people who are visiting him. He himself, when you visit him, says, "Friends, I thought that you'd run away from me. I was hoping that I would be sitting here licking my wounds alone." He sometimes even discourages people from going because he thinks that the process of healing must also be allowed to take place. So he still has friends, but obviously a question that you asked about how to run the political party and so on in opposition, this he himself has referred to, and he has said to me that when he steps down, then I must also be sure that all those friends who are going to him and providing this and this financial resource may also go away. So this is the reality of politics. This is the reality of politics. And since you asked that question, the one thing I can say to you is that there is no intention on my part as vice president and as member of the Central Committee to indulge in mobilizing resources from any sources that would end up coming to hold this government, when the former government, ransom. None whatsoever. I'm saying this because I'm alive to the fact that there are some political parties that got funding from sources that may not have the best interest of Zambia at heart. But the PF must be made clear. We shall not allow that. We're going to mobilize the same way that President Michael Sata mobilized, the same way that President Edgar Chagwa Lungu mobilized. We shall mobilize from those who have good intentions for Zambia.
I know you're a Christian. What conversation are you having with God now?
Every day I ask God, why me? And why at this time? Why wasn't it when we were in government? Because things would have been much easier in government. Why now? And all the time a small little voice tells me, like I said at the start of the program, there are people who God sent to be kings. There are others who God sent to be kingmakers. And if I'm going to be a kingmaker for the sake of the country, so be it, God.
So be it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's been an honor.
Thank you.